The censorship in gaming is really ramping up now as Sony has a new patent which reveals they have plans for AI that will censor games in real time. This headline is like our worst goddamn nightmare, and I was so goddamn scared when I read this. So let's get into the article. So Sony has patented an AI program that can censor games for content in real time, effectively making an adult-oriented game kid-friendly or at least child-friendlier. The idea behind this tech is to allow parents to control what is censored from a game their children are playing. They can choose the settings they wish: violence, cursing, sexual content, what have you. And then the AI will take it from there, changing or blurring out the stuff the parents don't want their kids exposed to. By virtue of the program, it could also be tailored to each parent's rules for their kids, flattening out violence but not cursing, for example. Now, here's the thing. If this is what that is for, right? For parents to censor stuff that they don't want their kids exposed to, then I'm not completely against it, because there is some things in video games that, maybe you, because of whatever your beliefs or whatever, you don't want your kid exposed to that. I can understand. Like for example, the longest time, my parents weren't a fan of me watching stuff that swore all the time. Yet here, I still did it. But like, so if there's a parent who has that, or maybe they don't want their kid seeing a lot of blood, then they can use this program so that way if the kid plays a game like Red Dead Redemption, cuts out all the blood. Would that be sucky and the kid's not getting the full experience? Of course. But at least the kid can still somewhat play it, right? So if that's what this is, for parents to make it so that way kids don't experience a bunch of stuff, I'm not too against it. But the problem is that we know it's not just going to be used for that. So Retro Handhelds first reported the story, believing this is Sony's way of expanding the player base for its adult-oriented games. Imagine if kids could buy GTA, an already massive successful franchise. There's been talk of GTA 6. Okay, so let's talk about GTA 6. I don't care about that. In the long term, Sony could use this AI tech to make itself the go-to video game system for kids. There would be ads saying parents could safely let their kids play the goriest, naughtiest games without worrying about them seeing things not meant for children. You telling me we can get little 8-year-old Timmy to play Lollipop Chainsaw? Fuck. Hey, man. It could give Sony a leg up over Nintendo, whose systems were always seen as the most family-friendly with their Mario and Donkey Kong games. That's probably why Sony patented this program. They don't want Nintendo, or especially Microsoft, getting there. For Microsoft isn't going to do anything. Microsoft ain't doing fuck all. To that end, the program is described as platform agonistic, so it will work across multiple consoles, although presumably only Sony's. Retro Handhelds theorizes that this means the tech will be integrated into cloud gaming, so Sony PlayStation Network could offer for platforms old and new, meaning gamers, or more like in this case, young gamers' parents, wouldn't have to buy the newest mega expensive system to make sure their kids can play Bloodborne without the blood. One interesting angle Retro Handheld points out is that potential infringement on artistic freedom and the intent of the creators. Does a game like GTA lose something that defines it if you remove the adult stuff? Is this akin to coloralizing black and white movies, or censoring something from the past that is deemed not accessible, but what someone decides today's standards are? Or are the concerns mitigated or even nullified by the fact that this is a choice of an individual who purchased the game in its original state, rather than Sony altering GTA itself? So yeah, that is a good point, that question. Does this go against artistic freedom and freedom of expression in art from creators? That is a good point to bring up, and it is another valid argument here saying that, well, you're buying the game originally and you yourself are making the censoring later. It's your decision what you censor. That's another argument there. I am not. I'm against censorship of really any kind. I don't like censorship in anything. The only time I would ever argue for some censorship if it's something really like bad for children, right? Like children especially. I'm like, yeah, they don't need to see that. Maybe if it's something really bad like that, okay, I can understand a bit of censorship there. But if it's like when it's stuff like, oh, we're cutting out the blood in this game, or oh, we're covering up the women because it's too revealing, like that shit, I'm like, okay, buddy, hold on now. That's fucking stupid. I'm really just against censorship of any kind, really. But again, unless it's like for kids, which seems to be what they're trying to do, is make it so that way kids can buy a lot of the more gorier games that normally their parents wouldn't buy them. But now they're like, hey, but you can buy this violent game for them, this adult game, but you can censor stuff you don't want them to see. Now, in some cases, that means the entire game would just be a blurry fucking screen and you can't see anything. So that kind of negates it. And like they said, sometimes, games like GTA, the adult like tone of it helps define it. That's part of its feel. It's part of its charm. So these are good concerns, right? I'm definitely, because here's the thing. If this gets to the point where Sony themselves start censoring things, then we have a problem. But because this so far has been like, well, the parent, you yourself, the individual, can choose to censor. If it's a choice, you can choose to censor, you could choose just to keep the game exactly as it is, then I'm not 100% against this. It would just get to the point where if it gets to the point where like the company starts censoring it for you, then we have a problem. You shouldn't do anything. I decide shit. But if this stays that it's you decide what gets censored, what doesn't, then I'm not too against it. I still think this is dumb. Just don't buy the game for your kid then. Or the kid can, earn money and buy the game themselves. Type of thing, right? Like there were plenty of games I wasn't allowed to play as a kid. And, as you get older, you just play them and you're like, awesome. It kind of makes it more like enjoyable. It's like, oh my God, I'm finally playing this. And I couldn't play it when I was younger. It's like, yeah, I can play it now type of thing, right? But yeah, I'm not 100% against it. I'm not 100% for this either. I'm kind of down the middle, more leaning towards just don't do this and just buy the game or don't buy the game kind of thing, right? But let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, and I will see you guys all next time.